coming in from. We're super excited to have you. Alhamdulillah. All right. It looks like our recording started. Sister Fasmeen, let's get you updated, inshallah. Bismillahi. And let's get you as a co-host, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we have an amazing team that is not on camera necessarily, but very much a crucial part of bringing the Maghrib experience to you. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of them and all of you who are participating as well. Again, we'll be getting started here in just a few brief moments, less than 4 minutes, inshallah, until we go live. So we're looking forward to ensuring that everyone is able to benefit from this gathering. So please continue to join. Alhamdulillah, we have the numbers are growing and growing. Let folks know in your circles if they're not with us. Go ahead and let them in, inshallah ta'ala. Will they be recording? We are recording the experience. So inshallah, we will make the recording available, inshallah ta'ala. So you can pray Maghrib. Come back if you can, inshallah, and we will look forward to having you back with us, inshallah ta'ala. So yes, we are coming in from all over the world. We're going to be discussing uh, the introduction to Quran flow. So we want you guys to be ready for the experience, inshallah. If you have a mushaf with you, have it with you, inshallah. If you have a notebook, maybe take some notes, feel free to do that. And we hope that in this experience, even though it's an introduction, we expect that you will also benefit and learn today. So this will also be a learning experience. This will be a preview of what's to come, but also something that you can benefit and grow even here in these moments that we have together in this webinar. So be ready. Bring your mindset of learning and increasing your knowledge and your connection to the Quran. Reset your intention, inshallah ta'ala, and we're very, very excited to bring this experience to you, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Let's take a look here and just make sure everyone is good. Let's see here. So we have our team is set up on the back end. Bismillah. All right. Yeah, Brother Arma, thank you for the reminder as well. Jazakumullahu khairan. Yes, so we have this international gathering. We're very, very, again, pleased and excited to be with you all today. Quran Flow, if you've seen, perhaps we have had some videos, some previews up on our YouTube, so you can check those out to kind of get grounded. I'm sure maybe you've heard about that. You've seen it through our emails. This has been a long time in the works. There has been a very intentional experience working to design something that will give you an environment that is safe and nurturing and giving you the opportunity to grow in your relationship with the Quran. And inshallah ta'ala, in just about a minute, we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. Sheikh Idrees will be bringing on shortly. And Sheikh and I, once you come on, we'll make sure your video looks good, audio looks good, all that good stuff. And we'll go ahead and get things kicked off, inshallah azza wa jal. So we'll wait till the minute. Just, we know some folks may be joining right on time. Alhamdulillah, the numbers are going up very, very rapidly. And we'll go ahead and do an introduction for Sheikh Idrees and then get things kicked off, inshallah ta'ala. So be ready. We'll be getting started here momentarily, inshallah azza wa jal. And yes, it is about that time. It is 1 p.m. Eastern time. Take a quick look. Make sure that all of our co-hosts are where they need to be. Bismillah. All right. So I think we are set. Bismillah. All right. All right, let's go ahead and get things started. Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Officially, we are going to get things started, inshallah. I will be your host for today, Abdurrahman Justin Wood, coming to you from Columbus, Ohio, on behalf of Al-Maghrib. And we are so excited to bring you this new experience with Al-Maghrib, this intentionally designed experience to bring you closer to the Book of Allah, bring you closer to the Quran flow. And I would like to kick things off by welcoming and introducing our brother and Sheikh Qari Idrees. Qari Idrees Ali is an expert Quran reciter and instructor with over a decade of teaching experience. Having completed his memorization of the Quran, he undertook comprehensive Tajweed studies with esteemed shuyukh, completing his ijazah in Tajweed and the 10 qira'at. Qari Idrees is especially passionate about teaching maqamat, which is the art of beautifying Quran recitation, through his innovative and effective teaching methodology. He is also our Tajweed instructor in our Maghrib's brand new program, Quran Flow. Sheikh Qari Idrees, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. I'm so honored to be here with you guys and see 178 and growing folks from around the world, Australia. It's hard to keep track. I am joining you guys from, I would say Toronto, Canada. I'm in Mississauga, which is like the neighbor of Toronto that no one really knows about unless you're here. So the easy answer is Toronto, Canada. For those of you around the world who might know Toronto. Bismillah, I am honored to be here. You know, many of us are familiar with the hadith, خَيْرُكُم مَّن تَعَلَّمَ الْقُرْآنَ وَعَلَّمَهُ, that the best of you are those who teach the Quran and learn it, right? And so that's what this gathering is here. Like, we're all here gathered for that purpose. You're either here to learn something or, we're here to teach and benefit, from each other. And it's like it's interesting because it's like one of those, if a tree falls in the forest type of thing, right? If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear the sound, it doesn't make a sound, right? And we have this relationship between teacher and student that in order to have the teaching, you need the students. And in order to have the students, you need the teacher. So it's like a little bit of a symbiotic relationship. So I'm honored to be here with you guys. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts barakah in this session and that we all benefit. We all benefit. The first thing I want to ask for everyone is to give your attention to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So maybe not to me specifically, but if you're here to learn something, related to recitation, the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then give your attention towards that, put your attention towards that, and engage with us, right? If you have your Instagram on the side, or you're like, browsing something else on the side, then just give that a pause and let us focus on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Now, the way I teach is that I will engage with you guys in the chat. So I don't know if I can see everything in the chat because there's a lot of you here, and that's amazing. That's amazing. But I want to start by asking you all a quick question. What are you here for? Okay. So let's say we're here to learn Tajweed. Few questions. What are you here for? What are you hoping to get out of today? Number two, what does Tajweed mean to you? I could see the chat. So I won't get to everything. There's a lot of you here. Okay, you're here. Sister Yasmin says to learn Tajweed, to read Quran well, to refresh your Tajweed, to recite the Quran the proper way, to improve your reading of the Quran. Okay, here's one that's interesting. AJ says to improve your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's going too fast. I can't see all of it. Some of it's scrolling out of my view, right? To improve your recitation. But I like that one. To improve your connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Learning how to recite. Wanting to recite with proper pronunciation. The way the Quran is revealed. Yeah, all of these are beautiful, beautiful answers. All of these are beautiful answers. And I appreciate you guys sharing that, right? So we're all here, and I like the answer that someone said. I think it was AJ, if I got not the whole name, but to improve our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So ultimately, sometimes when people think of Tajweed, okay, right away people get into the weeds of it, right? There's the big picture, right? You're hovering above, you can see everything, the full landscape, and then there's you, like, you're in the forest, and you could just see the path ahead, right? Or you see the things around you. So sometimes when students approach the idea of Tajweed, they say, I want to recite Quran better, or I want to learn Tajweed. Students get caught in the weeds, okay? And that's why I appreciate that one answer, and maybe there were others, right? Improving your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, improving your connection with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So when you zoom out, you see the bigger picture, and that is that we're trying to improve our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Quran, okay? And I want to emphasize that at the beginning. I always emphasize this at the beginning because, again, when students come to Tajweed, they start to think in terms of the weeds, okay? The weeds are, how do I put my tongue here for this letter? The weeds are, how long should I stretch this med for? right? The weeds are, what should I do to this letter, this rule, that pronunciation? And very quickly, when someone is stuck in the weeds, it can turn, I don't want to say negative, but you can get stuck in the weeds. I mean, that's the phrase, right? You get stuck in the weeds and you're not seeing the big picture. Now, when someone gets stuck in the weeds, it starts to take like a little bit of a negative, there's like a negative association with that, right? So now it becomes, right? What are some negative things you guys might think about Tajweed? Or things you might be experiencing in regards to Tajweed? Okay, it's difficult. Denial says difficult. It's too hard. How about this? Let's complete the blank. My recitation is blank. Or I worry that my recitation is blank. Yeah, we're getting a lot of that, right? My recitation is incorrect. Okay. I worry that my recitation is incorrect. It's not good enough. Too Pakistani, someone says. Right? So someone has a certain accent. Okay. And then so what? So what? Complete the sentence now. Let's add to that sentence. I worry that my recitation is blank. You guys are saying incorrect. Therefore, what? How does that? Therefore can come in a few directions. Therefore, it makes me feel a certain way. Or I worry that. And what's the consequence of that? Bismillah. Okay. So I worry that it's wrong. I worry that I'm changing the meaning. I'm worried that AJ says it leads to sin. Okay. I worry that the meaning might change. Meaning might change. I worry that my reading won't be accepted. Okay. I worry that my reading of the Quran may not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's disheartening for me, right? So I hear you. I hear embarrassing. Someone says these are going fast. Maybe I need to open the chat separately. Okay. That way. I can control the scroll. Pop it out here. Yeah, so the meaning might change. I worry that, it won't please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I worry that it feels embarrassing. I feel disheartened, right? I worry about Allah's displeasure, right? Scared. And I appreciate you all sharing that. These are all, like human feelings. And they're things that sometimes we have over time, like accumulated this baggage associated with reciting the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Keep in mind, like, does anyone not like, so sometimes there's, okay, I have this feeling, this thought, this thing occurs to me. If you stop and think about it, do you guys think that if you sit down and you give time to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you will earn the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes or no? Will you earn the displeasure of Allah? Okay, amazing, amazing. Resoundingly, you guys are saying no, right? And I asked a negative question, so the answer was no, right? Do you think if a person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused you to be born into whatever, like a Desi background, or, you're a new Muslim, or whatever the situation, okay? And you come to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you open the book and you recite. And okay, you're stumbling here or there, you're making some mistakes here or there. Whatever the deal is, are you earning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure or displeasure? Right? And all of you guys resoundingly are telling me that you are not earning the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not sinning. You're doing, like, inherently, we know that we're doing something good. And we know that we're coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we turn to Allah and Allah turns to us, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Shakiran Halima. He's the one that he, like, when we put that effort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies that for us in terms of reward and turning back to us, right? And good leads to more good. But yet still, we still have these negative ideas or feelings associated with Tajweed, that I might be doing it wrong. I might be reciting incorrectly. I might be sinning. I might be, maybe, some people might have this idea, maybe my prayer is not valid because what am I reciting? I mean, clearly you're reciting Quran, right? But sometimes this fear gets, like, drilled into us that, like, maybe I'm not actually reciting, like, it doesn't make sense. And yet still we experience these feelings, right? That's how feelings sometimes are. Like, if we think about it, we know that it doesn't make sense, but we still have that, thing in our mind. And the reason I'm emphasizing this at the beginning, before we get into the weeds, is because the framing of how we think about Tajweed really makes a difference in how we think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how we think about like our approach to the Quran, right? And then how we think about tajweed really does affect our own ability to go into that thing, right? If tajweed equals you're doing everything wrong, then learning tajweed is just going to expose everything you're doing wrong, right? So it's already like a barrier to you wanting to improve, because like what's the point of improving if you're just going to start reading and you're reading wrong? So you see what I mean? The cycle continues. The cycle. Anyone feel like that? That if I recite the Quran, then I'm going to be reciting wrong. Therefore, I'm going to get the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to get, right? And you see how that, like when we stop and think about it, it doesn't actually make sense. But as a feeling, it kind of like perpetuates, it's like self-perpetuating, right? Then the more you leave it, now because I don't want to earn the displeasure of Allah, so I'm not going to read the Quran. So because I'm not reading, I'm not going to learn. And if I learn, I'm going to be sinning. So, but you see what I mean? It just kind of like continues on itself. And slowly and slowly and slowly, you find yourself, more and more distant from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And maybe you're approaching it different ways. Maybe you listen to lectures, you're listening to a lecture about this surah and so on, and you're reading the translation. But you build up this feeling that tajweed is overwhelming, tajweed is difficult, and it leads to more of that pain, right? Bismillah. So I want today to go into a few aspects of tajweed, okay? For you to have number one, right? We can't complete all of tajweed in 1 hour. That's not the idea. But I do want you guys to have a little overview, like an overview of the essential components of tajweed, right? So we're studying like big picture, right? Tajweed really then is about approaching the Quran. It's about connecting with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through recitation and doing it in a way that is, yes, we're going to use the word correct, but not that the opposite of correct is incorrect. I mean, that is the opposite. But the idea is that we're going to make an effort to recite with more clarity, with more beauty, right? So if I was to start talking like this right now, can you guys hear me? Can anyone hear me and decipher what I'm saying? So you can get the meaning of what I'm saying, but you can clearly tell that I'm not putting much effort into into speaking clearly, right? I'm kind of mumbling, okay? So I'm mumbling. I'm not using my mouth. I'm not using my the voice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me, right? And sure, the meaning sort of comes across, but it doesn't sound that good. It's not that clear. And it just takes a little bit of effort, right? So that's the idea that I want you guys to come to tajweed with, that you don't sound like you're mumbling and you're kind of like tired and don't really want to be there, but you're putting in some effort and to sound clear, to sound, yes, correct, or be more precise with your pronunciation. That's probably a better way of putting it, in the hopes of building this more like engaging experience with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's something that you can come to, you feel confident with, you feel comfortable with. After a long days of you have a long day of work, you have, your own challenges at home, you have you're tired, whatever, that you can open the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and find that comfort in recitation, right? So Bismillah, what I want to share with you guys is a few aspects of tajweed, right? Now we're going down a little bit more into the weeds. And as I said, we're not going to cover all of the rules of tajweed, but a few things that I want to show you, okay? That will give you an idea of, again, not everything will apply to everyone, right? Maybe I'll give you a letter example. We'll start with that. And maybe it applies to you, maybe it doesn't. But I want you to understand that, okay, what is going on in terms of this is a problem that some people have, and it's actually easy to fix. Let's start with a letter, okay? And this is common. Someone said, reciting, with like a Pakistani accent, for example. I have a student, I was working with a student just a few days ago, okay? And the student is reciting like aruzu, okay? Or allazina, allazina, okay? Instead of alladhina, alladhina. Okay, so the letter thal, is being changed to a z or za sound, okay? Everyone try this with me. Say alladhina, alladhina. Okay. Now, some folks might pronounce it and say allazina, allazina. Again, big picture. We're reciting to earn the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we're in the weeds. Okay. And we're thinking about one aspect of Tajweed. One aspect of Tajweed has to do with the intrinsic qualities of letters. How is this certain letter supposed to sound? Okay? How is this letter supposed to sound? So if a person recites now allazina, again, let's put aside the word wrong. Let's put aside the word you're not reciting the Quran correctly or something of the sort. Let's just think about the sound. So I want you all to pay attention to, let's say, z, the Z sound. Z, Z, Zoo. And I want you to pay attention to where the tip of your tongue is. As you should feel, just kind of go through this with me. Like try it yourself. I can't see you guys. It's not a full class, but try it. When you say Z, Z, you should feel that the tip of your tongue is not actually touching anything in front of it. It's sort of floating. It's sort of floating. Z. Okay. Now I want, if you feel your tongue floating, I want you to just connect it to the back of the front teeth. Okay. Just don't even worry too much about where it's going to connect. Just kind of stick it somewhere there. Do that. So I want you to change the sound of the z into a z by bringing the tongue and sticking it somewhere. Okay, and then yes, can you hear the difference? And even more importantly, I would add, can you feel the difference? Can you feel the difference? So not hear it when I do it, but can you feel the difference when you do it yourself? Okay, perfect. So maybe you don't have this particular issue. Maybe you recite alladina and that's not an issue. But for many students, when they're reciting, they might say allazina, right? And this student was reciting like that. And we did this simple exercise. Like all we have to do is connect the tongue right there and the sound solves itself. Okay? Who had that problem before? Who says allazina or like zalika al-kitab? I know it's hard to keep track of the chat when there's that many, a lot of people. Okay, if you had that issue where you're saying zalika al-kitab or allazina, did this work? Were you able to turn it into the and alladina? Perfect, perfect. We need some emojis now. I don't know if Zoom does emojis. We need some emojis for party hat emojis or something for those of you who got it. Okay? So you see that for those of you who have that issue, right? Or have that challenge, maybe challenge is the right word to use. You see that in almost just like a few minutes, it's easy to fix the issue. Okay? I'm trying to avoid the word mistake or something of that sort. Right? So again, you'll feel that your tongue is a little kind of vibrating, not touching anything. As soon as you touch it to the front, right? The sound changes to the sound. Dhalika alladhina. Okay? And what I want to demonstrate with that is that the sound is not a difficult sound necessarily. There's a process to how you can fix it, right? If you were doing it one way, there's a process, and that's where kind of the science of Tajweed comes in. That's where Tajweed teachers come in, right? That Tajweed teachers will know how to like tell you, okay, just do this little thing, and the sound changes, right? And you're like, whoa, I didn't know that, right? Now there's the added challenge of now when you read, hopefully you've been reading for, if you've been reading for years and years and years a certain way, that it takes time to undo that habit. And again, that's something that, I was working with a student recently, and when he was reading to me, he can make the sound, ذَلِكَ الَّذِينَ, but now when he's reciting, it almost like pops up at him and he resorts to the way that he's been reciting, forever. So I told him, this is a little tip that you guys can put to use. Take a page, open a page of the Mus'haf that you want to read from, and if that's what you're trying to correct, scan through the entire page and just take a little highlighter or pencil or whatever, right? Underline or circle every instance of that letter. So you almost like see it before it comes to you, right? So you know what's coming up. So when you recite, it doesn't just jump out at you all of a sudden and you resort to, your habit of reading allazina or zalika, but you can see it in advance and you're able to correct it before it happens, right? So that's an example of a letter, right? Where someone might be reciting for years and years and years, and they think to themselves, hey, I have this like Desi accent or this Pakistani accent, allazina, zalika. Instead of tha, they say sa. It's the same idea, by the way. If you say as, the tongue is floating, and as soon as you connect it, as, it becomes the tha sound, right? So someone might have this idea, and I'm going back to what you guys shared with me before, where I'm reciting and I recite with this Pakistani accent. I'm saying sawab, I'm saying zalika al-kitab, and it's actually an easy fix. It's an easy fix, but it takes time to practice to build that habit. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to show you. So Tajweed deals with letter sounds. That's one aspect of Tajweed. How is a letter supposed to sound? Okay. What else? How are the vowels supposed to sound? So if going back to the idea of like mumbling, right? Sometimes this comes down to clarity in the vowel sound. So everyone with me, let's try saying ah, e, oo. Okay, sounds easy, but now in recitation, sometimes folks are a little bit not as precise with these sounds, and that overall has an effect. So the difference, for example, if somebody says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim versus Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Okay, so can you hear the difference between the first and the second? The letters are all the same. The Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra are all the same in terms of like they are Fatha, Dhamma, Kasra. We're not changing anything. But the second one has, how would you describe the second one? For me, it starts with the letter C. So, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Yeah, so the word C is clarity that I was looking for. Yeah, so Sharifa too says the first one was not clear. Renata says the second one is better, very, very clear. Salma says better enunciation. So what's being pronounced more precisely there is are the vowel sounds. So a, e, u, right? So instead of and this is something that takes time to work with the teacher and recite and build up that habit of making the vowel sounds a little bit more clear, right? Sometimes Tajweed deals with different types of vowel sounds. So, for example, some letters have a sound, some letters have a sound. We have a fatha or an alif after it. So, for example, kha would have a sound, whereas fa, la have a sound, right? To use this recent student as an example, student is reciting with me, صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. An'amta, right? Versus if we kind of just tweak each of those vowel sounds and make it a, an, a, am, ta. Can you hear the difference if I say صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم versus صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم? Right? So sometimes when people like as students, you guys want to improve your recitation, especially this I know now is more common because we have access to like wonderful reciters. Everyone's following reciters on YouTube and like Instagram, whatever. When you hear a recitation like that, like the second one versus the first one, as a student, you might not actually realize like what's the difference. The difference is actually very simple. It's just the vowel sounds. Okay, it's how am I pronouncing a, e, and u. So if I pronounce it like ah, I'm gonna get an'amta, an'amta. If I pronounce it a, I'll get an'amta, right? And you can see it's like a big difference between the two, but it's actually not that big a difference. That's the idea. It's not that big a difference. You just need to learn, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then you have to build a habit of doing that consistently across, every letter and every word. And it makes a difference to the overall beauty and clarity of your recitation. Okay. What else does Tajweed deal with? So we talked about two things so far. Letters, right? So there's letter sounds. Where does a letter come from? How do you pronounce a certain letter? And then what kind of qualities that letter has, right? What sort of qualities does a letter have? Then we have these vowel sounds, for example, this quality or sound of the vowels. I'm gonna hide the chat. Sometimes I get a little distracted. I'll come back to the chat. So we have qualities of letters, right? How is a letter supposed to sound, right? What characteristics does this letter have? You'll learn that in Tajweed. We learn, how to improve the vowel sounds as well. I, U, making those clear. And then we also have in Tajweed situational type of rules. Okay, and this is typically when people think of rules of Tajweed, this is what they're talking about. Okay, rules of Tajweed. And again, when people say rules, going back to what we talked about before, rules sometimes have this like negativity associated with it. If I'm not following the rule, I'm doing it wrong, right? I'm breaking the rule, that kind of idea. When we say rules, that's not really like it's like a situational rule, like if then, right? Kind of like a code. If this, then that, right? Like a logic thing. If this, then this. It's situational. When we say rules, it means that it's a consistent type of thing. If you have a letter of stretch, right? I, U, and it's followed by a hamza after, after that I, U, it's followed by a hamza, we're going to stretch it for a certain time. Okay? If we have a noon with the rest sign on it, a sukoon, we're saying an, like the example, an'amta, then the noon might sound a little bit different based on the scenario. All right, I need a way to hide the chat from myself. Yeah, bismillah. Anyone who needs to pray salah, do pray salah. I think this webinar is being, there for folks around the world in different time zones. For myself, it is middle of the day, Dhuhr time right now. So bismillah, everyone, do what you got to do, and but leave questions if you have questions in there, or go pray and come back. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. So I'll give you one rule, for example. Okay, when we have a noon that has a rest on it, we're coming to a rest on that noon. So we say, for example, an, in, un, or like, for example, we have a tanween sign, an, in, un, right? Now that rule, that sound of the noon, if it's followed by I'll keep it simple, right? If it's followed by a ya or a wow, okay? If it's followed by a ya or a wow, then we are going to merge the sound with it. So for example, faman, I'll show you guys in the mushaf. If I have the let's get this to work. Okay, so for example, in Surat, right here. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ. Okay, so when we have, get this pointer on. I'm not seeing the pointer. Maybe you can see my mouse over here. So, for example, if we have faman ya'mal, okay? When we have a noon that we're coming to a rest on from the meme, we're going to arrive at the place of the noon. If it's followed by a ya, we're going to blend the sound together. So we're going to say فَمَن يَعْمَلْ, and we're going to hold the sound for a bit. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ. Okay? Or for example here, وَمَن يَعْمَلْ. Okay? So this is an example of a rule. Everyone try this with me. Let's say it first just as a clear noon. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ. And then وَمَن يَعْمَلْ. And now if you listen to recitations, you'll hear the reciter recite فَمَن يَعْمَلْ. You guys do it as well. Or here, وَمَن يَعْمَلْ. Okay? So what's happening there is that the noon sound gets merged into the, or blended into the ya sound. Same thing happened here. And that's a rule, meaning it's going to happen consistently everywhere the same way. Okay? Another example we can find. So the idea being that if you learn this if then situation, it means that once you learn it, then you apply that consistently everywhere. Okay? Again, I want to show you guys that when we say tajweed and we think of it's all these rules of doing this wrong, whatever, it's actually there's a few things you can learn, right? I mean, anything, any topic, there's going to be a depth to the topic. And then there are things you can do quickly, right? And a lot of this hesitation that people have around recitation or around tajweed, or I might be breaking the rules, or I'm doing this wrong, I'm earning the displeasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of this stuff that we talked about at the beginning, these are easily, the bulk of it is easily solvable, right? With the right system, with the right teacher, with the right approach, and learning these few things. And then it's consistently applied. So for example, here we have يَوْمَئِذٍ over here, followed by a yeah, once again. So we're going to read this just like we said. فَمَن يَعْمَلْ. We'll also recite here. يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصْدُرُ النَّاسُ. Okay? Any questions about that? Yeah, so Olga is asking, so it's like you are not saying the letter noon. In this case, we're not saying the letter noon, but a little bit of the nasality follows through, right? Okay, so if I say يَوْمَئِذٍ, you might be able to tell that there's a little bit of airflow from my nose. There's a nasal sound that follows through, and that's the remnant of the noon. Okay? And with the rules of noon, there are a few of them. And in the Quran Flow program, this is one, I taught the section. There's multiple instructors, maybe Brother Abdurrahman will talk more about the program. But I covered the section where I taught the rules of noon, right? What do you do when you have the noon sound or this tanween and in un sound? And there's different things that happen to the noon, right? I gave it an example, right? Think of the word. I'll type it here. I'll type the word because I don't want to say it. In the chat, look at these words. And I want you to say these words out loud. And just say done when you're done. Okay, so we have and hold the sound of the N. If we say, for example, English or thinking, and the word king is in there as well. King. I typed it in the chat. So the words are English. Oh, my chat is set to, we do this again. English or thinking. Okay? So if you say the word English or you say the word thinking, right? You'll notice that N sound is different than if you say, for example, I don't know, if you just say N, right? Or you say man. Yeah, uncle is like the thinking example, right? So this is something that we're used to in language, right? We're used to even in English, for those of us who speak English, that uncle, you don't say uncle, or you don't say in English. You don't say thin, 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 king, right? We don't say that, right? Something happens to the N where the N kind of like disappears a little bit, right? It's not as clear. So this is like a very normal thing that we might be used to. Now what happens in recitation, and I don't want to go over like the actual rule is a little bit there's details to it and so on. Uh but the idea that I want to convey to you guys is that just like you can say English and you can also say, I don't know, man, and you say that, and the two N sounds are different, the same thing is happening in Tajweed, right? It's just that sometimes that gets layered behind all these different things at once. I might be doing it wrong. I might be breaking the rule. I might be reciting Quran incorrectly. Right. And then there's feelings that come with it, like that, we kind of went over some of those before. But the idea is that we have those. So يَوْمَئِذٍ تُحَدِّثُ would sound different from يَوْمَئِذٍ يَصْدُرُ, or might sound different than ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا ذَرَّةٍ. So this one, the noon sound is very clear here. ذَرَّةٍ. And actually, in the Quran Flow program, I actually covered this surah. Speaking from my side as an instructor, it was really like a lot of fun to record the lessons for you guys. And so I did some sessions where I explained the rules like in detail, and then there are sessions where like I went through a surah and we kind of looked at the application in live reading. So we covered the surah in detail. That's there in the program. And honestly, that is, I'll go through some of the questions, but I think there's some support staff that can answer some of the questions. Some of the things are kind of flowing. Honestly, that's really what I wanted to just give you an introduction of Tajweed. So we start, again, now we're down in the weeds and we're looking at specific things. Tajweed deals with pronunciation of letters. How do you pronounce specific letters? What qualities or what characteristics are associated with that letter? And again, people sometimes that concept, even when we say it, it sounds a little overwhelming. It sounds like, oh, there's characteristics of letters. There's characteristics of everything, right? Everything has characteristics, right? But because and even as I say English and thinking, there's something we're doing to the N sound, but we don't think about it really. It just happens, right? Now, what happens when we approach Tajweed through that lens of doing everything wrong, I'm reciting incorrectly, then automatically that puts us in a position where we're on the back foot, so to speak, and we're thinking like we're overthinking everything related to Tajweed. Okay. However, Tajweed is something easy. It's something that like anyone coming to the Quran at different levels, right? For some people, you might be coming to the Quran at a level of wanting to just be able to understand the letters and the letter sounds in order to connect them to recite. And then some of you might be at a level where you are adding on some of these rules of beautification and being more precise with the pronunciation and so on. Some of you need to be building, learning fluency. And that's, if in half an hour we can kind of cover a few things and you say, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's something learnable. Then, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, in a structured program, I'll stop my share in a structured program in something that, it's not just one half an hour 45-minute session in, week after week after week, month after month, with the help of a teacher and with the help of structured learning. This Tajweed is learnable, right? I myself was not always reciting as I do now. It's something that, you learn. And if I can learn it, Bismillah, you can learn it, and I'll pass it back to the host. Barakallahu feekum.
Wafikum barakallah wa jazakumullahu khairan. MashaAllah. Very, very insightful, and really appreciate how you took us from that 30,000-foot view of kind of the overview of why we're doing it, and then appreciating the details and the finer points as well. I'm sure all of us benefited and learned. I have my notes here as well. We're all practicing and moving our tongues and our teeth and everything along with you. Alhamdulillah, jazakumullah khairan for the guided session. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. There were a few questions that I would like to follow up with just based on what you discussed. I know there are many people in this session, and you can let us know in the chat, who have started various Quran programs over the years. and maybe started and stopped, right? Or gotten into Tajweed and then stopped their study and maybe have had an issue with understanding how to be consistent. Could you tell us more about how the Quran Flow program can help us with that aspect of really being consistent and regular with our study of Tajweed and of the Quran?
Yeah, Bismillah. Anything good that somebody wants to do, there has to be some consistency and structure built into it. And like even for myself, I can think of things that I'm not that good at or things that like I want to be better at, whether it's going to the gym or like working out or like any sort of like habit-based thing. Honestly, on our own, like we're just like there's so many distractions, there's so many things to pull us in different directions. And a program, right? Sometimes any program, right? It's you're having that structure and it helps you just to it helps you to move forward, right? And now when you have a program that's designed like with that in mind, a program like Quran Flow is designed, our students are, these are not children that we can put in a madrasa and have, sit down with us for 8 hours a day, right? You guys are in school. You guys are busy moms. You're working professionals, right? You're in school, whatever the situation is. Uh, like this Quran Flow program is designed in such a way that you can log in whenever you want. You can access the lessons. You can go through lessons, but you have flexibility and you have structure. I think that's kind of the idea. You have flexibility, you have structure, and it's ongoing, right? A lot of these things, as I said, like it's very easy to show you guys how to go from that to that, but then it takes practice and it takes consistency and it takes regularity. And I think that's what a program like Quran Flow has to offer. The other thing too is that Quran Flow, one of the things about Quran Flow, and I'll share this, from my perspective as an instructor, like uh, most of the instructors, like we might have learned Tajweed a certain way with a lot of Arabic terminology, a lot of like names for specific rules and so on. One of the things that we did in recording the program for Quran Flow is to try to cut through a lot of that terminology and explain things in simple concepts in using just English, right? So to explain concepts that are easy to understand, just like I said, you're putting the teeth like this. I didn't need to tell you the name of this teeth in Arabic, right? Which is actually, to be honest, like many years ago when I learned Tajweed, our teacher had us learn all the names of the teeth in Arabic, right? And even then, I was kind of like, I don't really see the point of this. Like I know what my teeth are, I know what molars are, but I don't know. Like, I don't really need to know it in Arabic. So that's one thing that in this program, if you've tried other programs and you found it overwhelming and there's too many rules to memorize and so on, this more focuses on the concepts, right? In a way that is easy to understand. So there's that. There's the method of teaching, then there's the structure, and it's kind of got this hybrid flexibility plus structure built into it. And yeah.
Excellent. Jazakumullah khairan for sharing. And of course, we know this program that we're referring to, Quran Flow. In case anyone missed it, we mentioned it in the chat a few times, but the orientation is just 3 days away. October 12th, we'll be starting off with our first session, inshallah. There is still time to register. You can go to quranflow.org and we can get you all situated and set up so you can join us for the initial session of this beautiful program. So please go to quranflow.org and check that out. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Shaykhuna, another question for you, Qari Idrees. I was wondering, there are a lot of us who have issues when it comes to reciting publicly. Sometimes there's a kind of anxiety that comes in, and we're really not confident in finding our voice and finding our recitation. How can Quran Flow help with that?
So I think it's having a judgment-free space in some sense, right? When I gave this 30,000-foot view type of thing, the overview of like what Tajweed is, sadly, I don't like some people come at it from a different perspective, right? Some people do come at it from a perspective of you're reading it wrong, you're reading it incorrectly. Uh I've seen even sometimes like on Instagram, like people like making videos correcting other recitations or something of this sort. And there's like almost like a very negative shame type of approach to like, no, 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 they're making this like very tiny mistake. This is not how the Quran should be read. And for people that have studied Tajweed, like you would know that that's like such a low priority thing. Like there's like a prioritization even in Tajweed. There's something that like you need to fix. There's some things, sure, you can fix it or not fix it, right? And I think Quran Flow is an environment where it is judgment free. It is very kind of supportive in that sense. It is encouraging, and that comes down to the type of like when someone's designing a program, it's the difference between this school and that's in that other one, right? This one gets the teachers that are forward thinking. This one gets the teachers that are supportive and encouraging. And this other place maybe doesn't really prioritize that or never thought of it as an issue. So you end up with this kind of like difference in teaching approach, right? So I think Fire and Flow is that type of space where judgment free, encouraging, people can use their voice without having to worry that other people are going to think this and so on. The other thing I would add in regards to that like anxiety about reciting out loud
Yes.
is that uh sometimes it is normal to have, right? Like, to use a gym example, if I go to the gym and I don't know what the stuff are, like I don't know what this machine does, like I will naturally be a little concerned that like I'm gonna embarrass myself in front of, even though no one cares, right? So that's part of it. Part of it is like just remembering that nobody really cares, right? If you go to the gym, no one's really looking at you to see like, are you holding, are you doing the exercise correctly, whatever. Like you just do what you got to do, and that's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But now, of course, if you have a group, like if you're in a group gym program where like everyone's beginners, like everyone's at my level, then even more you'll feel supported, right? That okay, I can do these exercises and there's someone helping me, showing me how to do it, and everyone around me is at the same level. So you feel comfortable and there's that comfort that's built in. And that Flow has that, right? Because if you're at the beginning, you'll be assessed and grouped into like an appropriate level. So if you're at the level where everyone is also at your level, then there's a comfort that comes with that as well. So
Yeah, absolutely right. And I know one of the really nice things about the program as well is, as you mentioned, it is level based. So someone who's starting from scratch can't read Alif Ba Ta, they have a space. And then someone who has done some studies and wants to refine and clarify some things, they also have the ability to join as well. So we'll place them in that level. And we also have gender based classes as well. So that way you can recite, males can recite to males, females can recite to females. And we have that additional comfort as well from being within a gender based space as well. So all of that is helpful. And again, October 12th is the day. We just have a few days until we start. So QuranFlow.org is the place to go ahead and get started. Qari Idris, I know there are some people who say, well, it's not quite Ramadan yet. So why would now be the best time to start? What would you say to someone who may be saying, yeah, this sounds great, but I'm going to put it off for a bit?
yeah, Ramadan comes like so fast, right? Ramadan comes so fast. I'm looking at it's October now. Ramadan is on beginning of February, right? Before you know it, that's just a couple months away. You throw in like a break in December, your kids are home from school and you kind of lose track of time. Before you know it, you start the year and Ramadan is coming. And by the time Ramadan comes around, uh I don't want to say it's too late because it's never too late, right? It's never too late to get started. Uh, but the time to get ready for Ramadan and to be, and to like, if you want to engage with the Quran in Ramadan, right? And there's different aspects of engagement, right? You might be reading translation, listening to lectures. If you want to be able to recite from the Mus'haf in Ramadan, then Ramadan's not necessarily the time to start that, right? You got to start now is the perfect time to start. Couple months, you get into that habit as well, right? You get into the habit of learning, you get in the habit of reciting, and when Ramadan rolls around, you're already rolling.
Absolutely. Jazakumullah khair for the encouragement. And with that, we do want to take a look. We have some questions that came in from the audience during the session as well. And if folks have additional questions, we are answering the Q&A in the webinar as well with a lot of the questions that we have around logistics and whatnot. So feel free to continue asking questions there. But there was a question for you, Qari Idris, around the issue of if I'm someone who struggles with pronunciation or enunciation of a particular letter in a surah. Does that mean that we're reciting incorrectly and not getting the reward? So I think someone may have seen where that you were pointing out where certain mistakes, where certain issues may be, where certain issues of opportunities for progress may be. If someone identifies that and says, you know what, I know that's an issue that I have, does that mean they're not being rewarded for the recitation?
I would say no, right? Again, going back to what I said at the beginning, and there might be some again in Tajweed, and this is something that sometimes students might not appreciate, especially at a beginner level. Even beginner students of Tajweed will not necessarily appreciate this because we see Tajweed as like this broad everything, and everything that's in Tajweed is like just treated as the same level, but not everything is the same level, right? So some of these things, for example, فَمَن يَعْمَلْ, if someone said فَمَن يَعْمَلْ, right? Uh, that is not the same as say like changing a letter that changes the meaning. right? So if the question is more about like allazina versus alladina, even with that, I would say no. Like it's not like you you're reciting the Quran and Allah the Most High is gonna look down on you and say, "Oh, uh, like sorry, folks." I mean, when we think about it like that, like Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is like way beyond what we can even comprehend, right? There's a narration of the person who and I don't remember the full details. Many of you must probably heard this. The story of a guy who lost his camel in the desert. You guys know this story, right? The guy loses his camel in the desert, and when the camel, and then like imagine you're in the desert, right? You're done. You're toast. The guy, I don't know, he was walking around, he finds his camel, and in his like he's so overwhelmed by joy that he says, and he makes dua, he says, "Oh Allah." And I mean, we're even hesitant to say, but he in his own like in his like he's delirious with joy. And he says, "Oh Allah, I am he flips it around. So instead of saying, "You are my Lord and I am your slave," he flips it around because he's just so ecstatic, right? And Allah, the narration is such that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala finds like humor in that, right? Like it's like it's kind of funny when you think about it. This guy is uh so ecstatic and filled with joy and love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he mixes up the thing and says something where the meaning is actually completely flipped, right? And it's one of those things that like the meaning is actually like it's a bad meaning, right? Uh but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understands that, right? And so I don't come at it like from that approach, right? If you are reciting allazina zalika, like, and you come, you come to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with that, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you and accept your recitation. And at the same time, make an effort, right? I think it's different if somebody says, "I don't care that I do that, doesn't really matter," like has an arrogance around it. So I think that's a different scenario. But yeah, if somebody comes to the Quran and they're reciting, then this idea that, oh, they're not going to get rewarded or they're going to get sin for reciting something, like you're reciting Quran, right? That's what you're doing. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of us. And we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Even experienced reciters make mistakes, forget stuff sometimes. Uh, Even myself, I'm leading Salah. I might make a mistake that sometimes a haraka changes the meaning or something. But we, part of this, even the dua of Fatma Quran that people make at the end of Ramadan or at the end of completion, it includes a dua that, oh Allah, like overlook these little additions or subtractions or changes. And we that's our understanding of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah.
Excellent. Jazakumullah khair. It's a lot of encouragement to those of us who didn't necessarily grow up, like you said, with the learning it as a young person, that we still have the opportunity to learn and that we can stumble and make mistakes, but still get that reward. And inshallah, get a double reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the effort that the person is putting in. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. And I think we've picked this up during the course of the webinar, but we noticed that we're not feeling the virtual tap on our hands for the issues that we have. I did want to call this out that in some cultures, some people, they associate learning Quran with harsh discipline, with anger, things like that. Just in what we've gathered today, we can really sense the positivity and a different tone. Can you talk to us about how important that is to create that positive environment for learning Quran as we do in the Quran Flow program?
Yeah, it's absolutely essential. It's absolutely essential. Uh like I've had experiences with students that just like I asked the students at the beginning, and some of them are like, we have these thoughts that put us off from the Quran. And when you think about it, like if you step back, if you're shaitan, okay, not that we are or anyone is, but like, and you wanted people to like, do you want people to be closer to the Quran and recite even if they have trouble, or do you want them to be distant from Quran, right? And like this type of thought process that if it leads you to be away from the Quran, if it leads you to, you know, I remember a student once who told me like he almost doesn't want to memorize because he's afraid if he forgets, then it's like a big sin upon him type of thing, right? So it's a very negative, like, so what is supposed to be like a positive encouragement type of thing, like ends up becoming like a negative. So why bother memorizing if I might forget it, and that's gonna be like a huge negative. Why bought like if I open the Mus'haf to recite, I'm gonna be reciting incorrectly. Therefore, I'm getting the displeasure of Allah by opening the Mus'haf. Therefore, close the Mus'haf. So it's like it's this backward type of thing. So the encouraging environment is absolutely essential, and it's something that I wish was everywhere. Unfortunately, it's not. It's not like, not all teachers are gonna approach it from a positive kind of perspective. You know, some will approach it very negatively and will kind of pick on little things that are not even that essential and make it a big deal and kind of shame people into what? I don't really know. But yeah, the positive environment is absolutely essential. And I mean that's how we are as people, right? If we're not getting that positive encouragement, if we're not getting that feeling of positivity, then we might just leave it, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, thank you for that encouragement and this unique and positive environment that we're cultivating for the Quran through Quran Flow. Just so everyone's aware, October 12th is the date that we're going to be kicking off with orientation, inshallah. And our instructors will be pivoting to focus on the registered students and ensure that they get the best experience possible. So there is a window of time that we have between now and then to get registered, secure our spot in the program, inshallah ta'ala. If you haven't done so already, and if through experiencing this webinar, you feel like this is the kind of environment that will help you get to the next step and the next stage of your journey with Quran recitation, please visit quranflow.org and secure your spot. That way we can ensure that we get you placed into the correct level, set up with your correct curriculum and instruction method, inshallah ta'ala, and put you on the path towards a positive relationship and a relationship of growth with the Quran and with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're very excited to be welcoming all of you very soon, inshallah. Qari Idrees, I was hoping you could give us just some final advice because I think there may still be folks that are on the fence or even people who think, this journey I've been reciting in the way that I learned, perhaps it wasn't the ideal or optimal way for such a long time. Or maybe I'm a bit older. I don't feel like I can make that change. Can you just give us some encouragement for someone who maybe doesn't feel like they have that potential to change and what parting advice you could give to someone like that who may be on the fence?
Yeah, a lot of times, these like number one, seek the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? If it's something that you're on the fence about, like if you're, you click on Quran Flow and you look at the details, you look at the pricing, whatever, and you're not sure, right? Sometimes like that, not unsurety, is that the word? That like lack of clarity sometimes comes from different places, right? Sometimes if it's like I don't know if like the program is good or something, that's a different question. But if it's this kind of a doubt that like I don't know if I can learn it or I don't know if I'm too old, sometimes, and this is just the truth. Sometimes you just have to try it, right? Right. But do make dua. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Rab, if this is something that's good for me in this life and the next, then facilitate for me to join, right? Because sometimes those feelings are not gonna become undone except from the tawfiq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants you that kind of that moment of clarity that says, you know what, this is something that I can do, and that belief in yourself, right? And that belief that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can help you to do it. So make that dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? You'll go to the website, it's gonna have the information there. It's gonna encourage you to join. That's what websites are supposed to do, right? That's what the program is there to encourage you to join. But if you have that doubt within yourself, then ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to clear that doubt or to give you clarity on that doubt. That's number one. Number two, like sometimes you just have to do it. Like you're not gonna really know. And I think we experience this all the time, except that sometimes we have to think about how we apply this. Do we apply it equally everywhere? We don't, right? If a person goes to university, for example, like you don't normally sit around and say, like, I don't know if I'm going to succeed at university, therefore I'm not going to go to university, and you just sit and do nothing. Like people don't really do that, right? But sometimes when it comes to the Book of Allah, that then we kind of have a different thought process around that. So sometimes you just got to do it, right? You might go to university and realize after 1 year that I don't like this program and I want to switch to a different major or something. Uh, but you have to start. You have to say Bismillah, and if it's something you want to do and you want to improve your recitation, then say Bismillah, seek the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and take that first step.
Inshallah ta'ala. Thank you so much for that answer. And absolutely, it starts with asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking his guidance. And then going to those resources that alhamdulillah that the the servants have put together. It's a humble effort, but we're very, very proud of what we've done with Quran Flow. An amazing team. I've worked with many of you in the past, and I'm so excited to see what's to come, inshallah ta'ala. I do want to do a quick shout out. I do see we have some of our current students in the chat kind of mentioning what their experience has been. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. Also, I see, looks like Sister Qureshi, who just registered. May Allah bless you. Welcome to the program. We're so excited to have you with us as well. And if you haven't registered yet, go ahead and secure your spot. We look forward to welcoming you. October 12th is the day that we're going to kick things off with orientation. Go to quranflow.org. We have frequently asked questions there. We have information about our instructors and the different methods and tools that we use. So please explore the site, register, secure your spot, and we can't wait to have you on the other side of the experience, inshallah ta'ala, October 12th. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Qari Idrees, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and your knowledge today. We look forward to being with you soon, inshallah ta'ala, in class. And thanks to all of you who joined us from around the world. Please visit us at quranflow.org. Learn more, secure your spot, and continue your journey, or perhaps begin your journey with reciting the Book of Allah in a positive and beneficial way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. We look forward to seeing you soon. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.